So one of my favorite modern extreme metal bands, Imperial Triumphant, has a new song, Maximalist Scream, featuring Snake of Voivod. Let's talk about it. Alright, so I have watched this before in advance, and I will be stopping a lot and breaking things up for copyright reasons, but excited to talk about it. Already just that like classic Imperial Triumphant opening with the dissonance and the building up of the cymbals, the cityscape too, which is very much tied into their themes. And you can actually check out my interview that I did with the band before their set a couple years back for Vile Luxury. They talk a lot about how their music is just sort of like encapsulating the vibe of New York City in all of its sort of grandeur, but also like seedy underbelly at the same time. So keeping with the aesthetic here. I love this image here is so unnerving with their typical like Art Deco mask, but with the like eyes overlaid into it and in the wrong scale too, which is very like David Lynch. It reminds me a lot of some of the weird effects they were doing on season 3. And I believe they are fans like I am of Twin Peaks and David Lynch. Love these camera angles too, and the black and white. Very, I don't know, for a second I was even thinking of like Mulholland Drive, but the camera work is almost more like Quentin Tarantino-esque, was another thing I was thinking about a lot with some of the cinematography. And I love those dissonant guitars. I've said before, I love bands that use this like chugging, rusted machinery kind of sound to their guitars. It just does not sound like anything else. It does remind me of, I know they've been influenced by like Deathspell Omega, but they've kind of got their own twist on it. That opening scream too, and I'm pretty sure that is Snake from Voivod, because it's a little bit different from Zach and some of the other members here in terms of how they sound. They tend to go for that more like deeper kind of like kind of sound, whereas Snake's got a more raspy, sort of high-pitched one. Love that Voivod album too. One of my favorite albums of the year so far, honestly. Here we go, yeah. See, that's Zach's sound there with the echoing, cavernous, more death metal-y kind of vocals. And I do consider Imperial Triumphant to be more of like a black metal band overall in their sound and aesthetic, but the vocals are much more on the death metal side. The drumming too. If you're not familiar with Kenny Gralski, by the way, like he is one of the best drummers in the metal scene right now. Like what he brings to the game with the pace changes and just the sound and the intensity, the technicality, lots of like jazz influences there. Like listen to those cymbals. So good. And it's very interesting against this imagery, I would say. Like, something about it, that contrast. I'd say their previous videos, there was more of a union with the, like, kind of ugly sort of imagery, with the also ugly sound. But here, it's like, there's something odd going on, and I think it does add to that sort of, like, uncanny Lynchian sort of feel to it, too. But yeah, just the layers of the just pounding of the drums and the chugging, constantly trying to turn over like engine sound of the guitars. There's some like backing atmosphere too, and then Zach's just kind of sermonizing, again, sort of Deathspell Omega sort of delivery. I'll say too, oh, there they are. There's the boys right there. That's the whole crew. Zach, Steve, and Kenny, I believe. Oh, this bass part. Speaking of Steve. Again, kind of jazzy, a little bit like sort of funky to it too, but mixed up with that dissonant guitar sound. What a striking looking person too. To the point where I'm like, is that an actual person, or are they wearing like some prosthetics on their face? Interesting look. That is such a Quentin Tarantino glory shot right there. Like your badass women from like Death Proof. This one even kind of reminds me of Jennifer Jason Leigh, who was also in the 3rd season of Twin Peaks. So lots of fun little Almost Easter eggs for someone like me. Good change in atmosphere here into more of like a droning, warbly, atmospheric sort of thing. Yeah, the overlay with the lips again, too. Like, very Lynchy. I also love this shot of them not playing their usual instruments. That part, too. They always keep you on your toes, man. Like, there's always just something around the corner. And even so, like, having listened to this song a couple times now, like, it still hasn't fully settled in. So just, like, the unpredictability of it really catches me every time. It makes it more fun and engaging and interesting than I feel like most bands out there. Almost like a mathcore riff. It's like a Dillinger Escape Plan sounding thing. That's Snake on vocals again here. It's kind of like, oh, another great, this whole video is just full of these, like, if you could make a painting out of a lot of these visuals here, which I think is really cool. But I also want to say that Voivod and Imperial Triumphant, like, I never would have thought of that on my own, but it's like so obvious in retrospect that they're probably influenced in some ways by their kind of crazy instrumentation, and so this is really neat to see them coming together. And Snake really does fit seamlessly into the music, which some features, they just don't. They feel very copy-pasted in. They're not here. Another download, doom, 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 doom. Very kind of jazzy, almost stand-up bass sounding style there. This part's appropriately dragged out as they make their way into the desert. I love this shot. This, like, was jarring to me, too, because I think I first watched it on my phone. Insert clip of David Lynch getting pissed off about people watching things on their phone.
Get real.
But this, like, I was, like, messing with my phone. I was like, fuck, did it, like, reverse on me? But yeah, I love, like, them with the banjo and the accordion and the snare drum, as if that's what's making the music here. It adds a little extra trippiness to it. Kind of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas sort of moment here in the desert. Another great shot. Snake really bringing it, too. I hear so many guest features that kind of suck. This is great, though. More, like, tapping guitar here. Crazy dissonant solo. One of those weird eyes. And the big scream. The Maximalist Scream. I was interested in this part in the, like, narrative here, too, because I'm like, why are they fighting? It's not even clear. But again, I think that lends itself well to the, like, dreamlike Lynch quality. I just noticed. I didn't notice that before, but there are little, like, overlays popping up. Oh, it's like blink and you'll miss it. They're wearing, like, tiger skull paint or something. It's really hard to catch it. That's a cool shot, too. Fun, kind of Giallo horror shot there too, Suspiria kind of stuff. And then, yeah, it leaves you with this uncertainty, which I love as somebody who loves those types of films that leave you thinking and don't give you, like, a solid answer.
Elaborate on that.
No, I won't.
And there you have it. That is Maximalist Scream featuring Snake of Voivod, and I think this is great. I've loved really everything that Imperial Triumphant have been putting out. Vile Luxury is my personal favorite, but I loved Alphaville, and honestly, I kind of like this song more than anything I liked on Alphaville. I think it's a really impressive track with amazing technicality. But let's just get into the scales, right? I got my 3 scales. In terms of enjoyability, this is a scale that sometimes ends up trending a little bit lower for these more avant-garde, kind of complex, challenging arrangements, we should say. But I really, like, enjoy this. I think because of all the little changes and all the little melodies they kind of weave into it, it makes it very fun in a way to engage with. So I give it probably like a 9, at least on that front. Musicianship is a 10. Like, pretty much across the board, Imperial Triumphant are getting a 10 when it comes to musicianship, because you just listen to some of those guitar parts, the bass work, the drumming. These guys are 3 very talented individuals, and it was such a pleasure to sit down and just chat with them. But seeing them on stage, they just turn into these technically proficient monsters, and I adore it. And then in terms of innovation, they all score high there too. Like, especially this year, there hasn't been a lot of, like, really complex, weird shit coming out, and that's sort of my favorite stuff. I'm glad to hear that Psy is also working on new material, and so at least a 9, if not a 10, on that front too. Like for the year, it's a 10. In the scope of everything they've done in music in general, maybe closer to an 8 or a 9. But it's up there. So putting it all together, if I'm averaging it out, I feel comfortable giving this track a very solid A, and love the effort put into the music video. It's weird, it's trippy, it's very Lynchian. It leaves me with a lot of questions that I'm still thinking about afterwards, rather than having everything all wrapped up and I can just forget about it and move on. Answers are boring, y'all. Like, I want the mystery. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you can actually check out the interview that I did with Imperial Triumphant a few years back, or check out this playlist for some of my black metal tier lists on my main channel. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.